I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Aishwarya Pratap Singh, a remarkable individual, a seasoned marketing professional with nearly 2 decades of experience in FMCG in organizations like Mangaldeep, Dabur, currently serving as the Chief Business Officer of Yoga Bar under ITC Limited.
So thank you for the introduction. I'll spend around 40 minutes explaining what at least I have in my mind. And after that, we'll keep around 20 minutes for any kind of Q&A. It's completely open. When Dhruv approached me for this session, I think the idea was to cover largely what happens within marketing in FMCG. But then I thought it's important because you're largely undergrad students. So it's important that you get a view of how businesses work, especially in FMCG, because that's where I spent my time. And secondly, it's also important for you to get a flavor of how careers are also built over here. I think I have a journey that I will share with you. That should give you some idea of how careers are also built, because it's important to set that also in your mind. Because when I was studying in my engineering, I did not have a clue about what I will be doing after engineering. And even during MBA also, I was not very clear. FMCG as a concept was very not naturally coming into me. But somehow I got into that, loved it, and that's why I spent around 18 years over here. And I love every single day what selection or idea that I had chosen. But it was not really that kind of informed decision. I'm glad I'm here, but it's important that you have a window of view of how FMCG works, so that at least you can take informed decision. Right. I'll share a presentation. I think I need some approval from someone to share my screen.
So can you please check again? I've given the approval.
Yes. So let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So I'll start this session now if everyone is there, or people can keep joining in. But my only request will be I'll keep it short, around 40 minutes. Just keep your videos on so that at least I can see and interact. It helps me. I don't like talking to black boxes. So that's the only thing. And we can keep it interactive also. I love to take questions and answer them. So completely okay with that. Right. So, like I mentioned, we'll focus on both parts, building business as well as in career in FMCG. So let's start with the first part of my presentation, which is around building business in FMCG. Right. So FMCG is something that I spent my whole life. And why did I choose this specific area, despite having very less knowledge about this industry? Because it was always around me. It was it was omnipresent. And I will tell you also why this decision really was something that I still uh, enjoy till date. And it starts from the basic facts about the industry size. It is the fourth biggest industry in India. It is around 6 lakh crores and growing at around 6%, 6 to 7% on an yearly basis. 61% is in urban and 39% is coming from rural market. It is extremely scattered. So when we all really see that we go to now e-commerce or quick commerce, or we probably go to modern trade, having said that, the reality is that India is still a traditional trade market. Even right now, 82% of business is from traditional trade only, which is the typical kirana store that you see around you. In India, there's around 1.4 crore outlets of those kirana shops that have been dominating this business for years. Yes, e-commerce is growing, and it was 3% when I last presented last year, and now it has gone up to 6%. Modern trade is largely dominated by two big players. One is DMart, and second is Reliance. So apart from the Q-commerce, which I'm sure all of you use, the business largely lies in traditional trade. And yes, it is slowing down, and a lot more of business is happening in e-commerce and slash Q-commerce. But that's more of a metro phenomena. If you go to tier 2 or tier 3 towns, traditional trade, at least in FMCG, I'm not talking about mobile phone, I'm not talking about white goods. Like in mobile phone, traditional trade is dead now. majority of business is happening through e-commerce. But in case of Kirana, day-to-day shopping, that's where traditional trade continues to play an important role. And we all talk about we also see that this business has a healthy mix between premium, mass, and popular segment. So it's important to know that for building a business in FMCG, you need to have a play across the portfolio. You can't just cater to the top end of the customer because that's very small, and you can't just be a mass because then you will not be making money. I will cover more of that also separately. Extremely high penetrated, and that's one thing that really attracted me, that FMCG is something which is omnipresent, which is there. It is extremely heavily penetrated into every household, and that brings the biggest attraction about FMCG. FMCG is the industry which is considered to be recession proof. If there's an up and down, people will reduce spending on discretionary items. And that is why you see that the car sale goes up and down, the real estate goes up and down, the white good goes up and down, and also a lot more seasonal in nature. Like you do a lot of shopping regarding of white goods during Diwali, or a lot of shopping of white good happens in rural market during monsoon time. So because that's when they get the money after the crop is done. So, but if you look at FMCG, that is the most stable business, because you will need a soap, you will need snack, you will actually need atta on a daily basis, you need hair oil. So these things are something which are omnipresent and least likely to be impacted by any kind of up or downward trend in the economy. And that's what makes it most resilient. And that is why you don't really feel the stress that suddenly you are under stress because of something which is not in your control. Like a global economic downturn never impacts us. Yes, there are impacts which are more related to inflation. Like suddenly you'll find that the atta prices goes up, or the sugar prices goes up. But those are something which are cyclic in nature, and we manage it through multiple ways. The fact remains that every household needs it on a daily basis, makes it extremely inflation resilient. And that's the second part, that how FMCG works. The name itself is fast moving consumer goods, which basically means these are fast moving. They work on low margin and extremely high volumes. So we don't play on making more margin per product. We play on selling more of same product, and because of that we earn the quantum of margin. So unlike other businesses where there is a margin of around 70%, 80%, in some cases it is around 100% also. But in typical FMCG, on a specific product, you don't make more than 30 to 40% of a gross margin. These are regular usage item, and that is why it is very high frequency consumption. FMCG is all about mass production and mass appeal, and that is why if you see ITC's journey also, we have built a massive business because we wanted to cater to the mass. Because in India, you can cater to the top end of the pyramid, but you will be very niche. You will not be able to scale up. And the more you scale up, the economies of scale as a concept comes up. I'm sure that you must have learned, but this is how FMCG works. That you can sell, you can make 100 units in say 5 rupees per unit. But when you make it 1,000 units, you can make it in 4 rupees. And when you make it 1 lakh unit, then you can probably make it in 2.5 to 3 rupees. I'm giving you actual examples when the index to number, but that kind of benefit you did, because you are able to get more benefits when you are buying raw material in bulk. When you are building up, when you have a big business, you also have more money to spend into advertising as well as on distribution. And yes, it is purchase cycle linked. Ultimately, it is FMCG is about two things: building width across the different consumer section and building depth by increasing the frequency of consumption. So I want to reach out to as many households as possible, and every household I want to ensure that they are buying me more frequently. That is the overall concept of how FMCG works. I think I already spoke about this, but it's important to know that while we all talk about the top end of the pyramid, but this is how India is. When we talk about rural is around 60 to 70% of total population, and that's where still the penetration of branded product is still happening right now. So you will typically see that the rural markets are growing faster than urban. That is because urban market already has a very high penetration of branded products. In rural, the consumption of FMCG still happens, but those are unbranded products. So when we say FMCG, what I mentioned as 6 lakh crore is all branded. Whatever is unbranded, which is not sold in a package form, not sold in with a specific trademark or label or MRP in place, is called as unbranded, which is loose atta, loose snacks, loose noodles, or loose unbranded hair oil. So those things are not even counted in that. So imagine the potential that we are talking about, that FMCG is still scratching the surface, at least in rural market, where consumers are still opting for unbranded product. The more they move into branded product, the better it is for us to grow also, the better it is for them also, because they are also getting experience of a quality product. And that's what I was telling, that once a farmer gets money, he will not invest into a car or a white good. First of all, he will move into a branded product. So while branded product looks very, very basic or hygiene for an urban consumer, for a rural consumer, it's a step up from his basic life that he was living so far. So that kind of impact we are talking about. And branded does not just mean about a brand, but it is also about giving access to a quality hygiene product which has a standard in place. So biscuit that is accessible to a Delhi consumer is also being made available to a rural market, 5,000 population market consumer also, with same quality and same promise. That brings me to the second point, which is what is a brand? And if it's not a physical session, but otherwise I generally ask this question from people. But what is a brand is very important for us to understand. For consumer, a brand is simply a shortcut. A brand means a shortcut for decision making. Imagine you wake up and you have to go to a shop and you want to buy a toothpaste, and then you have to go through 10 different products available on the shelf. You have to understand what is good, what is bad. You have to understand from the retailer also that which product is good or bad. It takes a lot of time. A brand is a shortcut, that I know that this brand has this assurance about quality or whatever imagery it is trying to build, and that is why I'm saving my time. I'm not really going through the decision making process for all these low involvement products. If I'm buying a car, definitely I will go through a decision making process in which I will understand everything. But even then, actually, I will end up buying a car of my brand preference. Like the most, just to take a fact that car is supposed to be a very logical decision making process, because you know exactly what goes into which car and what are the benefits of one car against the other car. But still, you prefer a specific brand because car is an emotional decision making process, and that's what complicates the whole decision making in a human being, because they don't really go by logic or facts. As per logic or fact, you just need a car which has four wheels, which takes you from point A to point B. Still, we buy BMW, still we buy a higher end car because we want to portray something through that car. So it's a complex mix between a logical decision as well as an emotional decision making. But for consumer, from a company point of view, there's only one reason. We build brands so that we can charge a premium from the consumer for shortening this decision making process. From a philanthropic point of view, it can be anything. But for running a business, you need to command a premium, because when you build a brand, it requires money, it requires investment. And the more you are able to charge a premium, because you are able to demonstrate the benefit to the consumer, convince the consumer that our product is better and worth this kind of money. And that kind of money, once comes to you, makes your business sustainable. The more sustainable it is, the more it is for longer term. Also, you're able to build a business which has a very strong brand appeal. A brand cannot be built by not charging anything from the consumer and not investing into the brand. The whole concept of brand building happens in which you have a sustainable business. Sustainable business means you have a profitable business in which you are earning money because you are charging a premium from the consumer, and that money is reinvested into either the product development to make the product better, or into brand development to make the brand stronger in the mind of consumer, so that he continues to give more money to the brand for its growth. And that's how business grows. So that's what I meant, that a sustainable business is built only on a strong brand. If you don't have a strong brand, you might be able to build initial traction, either by pricing or by access to the market faster. But if you don't have a strong brand, anyone else will come and actually copy your product, and you will be able to offer something better and take away the market. Product differentiation lies is a short-term phenomenon. At some point of time, anyone else will come and make a product better than you. But a brand that is being built in the mind of consumers stays in a stronger way and stays for a longer time. So I'll come to the second part of this. This was more about how what was FMCG and how it works. I now come to the second part of the presentation, which basically means how we build businesses, how we build brand traction, how we work around marketing of the business. So there's a very, I'm sure all of you are aware of Philip Kotler, which talks about 4 P's of marketing. I'm not a fan of that particular concept. There's a book called How Brands Grow. It's by Van Sharp. It was launched around 10-15 years back. It simplified how we run businesses. It simplified marketing. So it says that for a brand or for a business to grow, you need 2 things. One is mental availability and second is physical availability. I added one thing from my side because it is hygiene. The books thought that it is very, very basic in nature, but I added from my side that you need to have a very strong product portfolio. I'll explain all of that through a case study of the 2 brands that I handled in the past. So I will explain more in detail. But by mental availability, it basically means that consumers should know that there is a brand, which is Yippee or Bingo or Ashirwad Atta, that should be in the mind of consumer when he's making any decision towards buying a product. The second is physical availability, which basically means when I want to buy something, it should be near me. I can't expect a consumer to visit 10 outlets to buy Ashirwad Atta or Yippee chips, Yippee noodles. Consumer will not be going to 10 places to buy a product. We are low involvement categories. We don't expect consumer to run around looking for us. And that's where it differentiates from a typical marketing approach in which we believe that if the brand is strong, consumer will go to 10 places to buy a brand. This book empirically proved that if you're not physically available and if you build such a strong brand that consumers running around to buy a product, it is not going to happen. Consumer is least bothered about you because he has to make 100 decisions. So in practical terms, for a sustainable big business, I'm not talking about picking up 10 consumers in India or running around buying your product, and for that they are moving to 10 outlets or 10 places. But for a typical business that has to scale up, these are the 3 major vectors. One is you should be mentally available in the mind of consumer when you are making a decision. You should be physically available next to the consumer when you are making the consumer is making a decision. And ultimately, obviously, you need to have a very strong product portfolio, which is rooted from consumer insight. Consumer insight basically means there is a met or unmet need for a product or service in the mind of consumer. You have to read that, and basis that you have to devise that product, and that is what you have to develop and give to the consumer. Once you've developed that, which is the first part of the story, then you have to ensure that your product is mentally available as well as physically available. This is a very basic metrics on which I have been working for last 10 years since the time I read this book. Otherwise, marketing was looking very, very complicated. It was not really looking practical to me also. That how can you create a brand which is so strong that consumer is only thinking about the brand and everything else is not really important for him. But the reality is that consumer is never thinks about the brand as much as the brand manager thinks about the brand. And that's why it's important to know that marketing can do this much. And after that, sales, customer experience, post purchase experience, or brand salience also plays an important role. So what I will do is that I will show you 2 examples of the brand that I handled in the past, and that will give you an idea. Yippee Noodles, I hope you know, it's a brand that was launched in 2010 as against a market leader, which was launched in 1983. We were late entrant to this category, and it was dominated by a very strong player, which was actually synonymous with the word noodles. But thankfully, as of now, we have a market share which is upward of 20%. Yippee is right now more than 1,000 crore brand. And if you talk about the top of mind recall, our top of mind recall amongst kids is upward of 50%. So when we do a consumer study and ask consumer what comes to your mind, when we say noodles, more than 50% of urban kids call it as Yippee Noodles because we built a very strong imagery in the mind of kids consumers. And finally, we are growing at more than 20%. How did we do that? We started with the basic decoding of the category. When we saw that the market leader is very strongly rooted into the emotional appeal, we started with the product benefits. So how we did that was we actually developed products which were non-sticky in nature. Because of our expertise in Ashirwad data, we were able to build a product which was non-sticky in nature. We also created noodles which were staying longer, and longer means more slurp, and slurp means more fun. And fun is something that really kids associate food with. If you look at any kid, they don't eat food; they play with the food. So that whole playability factor was added into our noodles by keeping it longer. And then finally, we also added veggies, dehydrated vegetables for mother's assurance. Typically, a noodles is made with addition of vegetables, but in this case, we actually added vegetables from our side. And then we created a brand which relied heavily on pester power. What is pester power? Pester power basically means that you are targeting the consumer, which is the end consumer who is eating the noodles, which is kid, and you are attracting the kid towards yippee noodles, and then that kid is actually pestering his or her mother to buy yippee noodles as against the other brand. That's what we call as pester power, in which the customer who is making the purchase decision, who is a mother, is being pestered by the consumer, which is kid, to buy our brand. And that's what we do, the indirect way of influencing the decision making. How did we do that? We heavily invested into brand building. We are available or present across all the channels, and we stay salient 52 weeks in a year. Every day we have advertising or through multiple medium, whether it is digital, online, offline, all of that is there. We sometimes also use celebrities, although we use it for some time, then we've shifted to a news at a celebrity, but we always use a very credible voice to create excitement. And we created distinctiveness. This is very important concept that I tell everyone, that differentiation versus distinctiveness. I'm sure you must have heard about a brand has to create differentiation, but sometimes it is important to just create distinctiveness. I'm sure you're aware of how a Coca-Cola bottle is recognized without its brand name also. It is one of the most recognized icon. You know how Nike works. And I'm sure these are very, very iconic examples like Apple. But when I talk about how we do that on our daily, day-to-day basis, and I'm definitely not talking about an iconic brand, I'm talking about something which is a challenger brand. But there also, we realize that the market leader has a yellow wall in the shop. We created orange wall. The idea was to create distinct identity. If we also create a yellow wall, then we will not be distinctive from the competition or from market leader. So that is how you create distinctiveness. Distinctiveness basically means having certain features, certain benefits from certain ideas, certain fonts, certain colors, certain way of writing, that makes it very, very obvious that whenever the consumer sees this color or this type, he will think of you. And that is what is more important, because at some point of time, the physical benefits or product benefits might shade away. But after that, what will remain is the distinctiveness. And that distinctiveness has to come through another, which is extremely important, that you will learn when you become brand manager, is to be consistent. What happens many times, we continue to experiment, continue to try 100 things, but that is not really helping the brand. A brand is built by staying consistent across the channels, across time. 100-year-old brand, if you see now as against what it was 100-year-old back, you'll not find big difference. The brand that continue to change their identity, their color, their tone of voice, their TG, ultimately struggle, because consumer is not that obsessed with your brand. He will not keep looking for you. He will, if he remembers one thing about you, will keep remembering about that only. How you build story about around that is something that you can do, but distinctiveness should always come with consistency in saying same thing in a refreshing manner. The idea is to say same thing again and again. Tag achhe hain, right? The idea is same every single time. The narration, the story, the setup, the way you talk keeps evolving. At some point of time, it was only about a mother washing clothes for the kid. At some point of time, you realize inclusiveness is important. That's why you see that your husband is also coming in with that. So you have to keep staying this. You have to stay relevant with the setup, but does not mean that you have to change the way you talk and what you want to convey. The second part in which ITC is extremely, extremely strong is the availability. ITC is known for its distribution muscle, and this 25 out of 50 is what actually I wanted to tell is that there are some 50 lakh out. I told you that there are some 1.4 crore outlets in India, Kirana outlet, and there are some 50 lakh outlets in which noodles is sold. Out of that, in 25 lakh outlets, we are available. And if I look at market leader also, it is also not available more than 31 lakh outlets. So it's important that you are present in all the relevant outlets. You'll continue to increase your distribution. We are still not there. We have to continue to work because we are just a 16, 17-year-old brand. We'll continue to try to increase our expansion. Every month we see how many outlets we added or how many consumer touch point we increase. Right. So that's very important that we are available in all the relevant outlets with AVF. AVF is a term that we use internally. It's called as availability. It's available in the outlet. It is visible to the consumer and it is fresh. These are the three critical aspects of FMCG, that the product should be available. It should be visible to the consumer. Otherwise, he will not be asking for it or looking for it. And finally, it should be fresh because ultimately food is about providing a fresh product. So if it's something which is near expiry, consumer will not pick it up. That is why supply chain has to be managed accordingly, that the product after production reaches within 1 month into the outlet. And this is something which is extremely important, and it becomes hygiene at some point of time. The kind of factory, the kind of manufacturing setup that we have is world class. And this is how FMCG works, because we are not talking about making 1 pack, 2 packs. We are talking about millions of packs. In those millions of packs, even if one product or 1 pack has a defect or an issue, consumer will come back to us, and we don't want that kind of bad experience. And that kind of consistency and perfection can only come by automation, by not touching the product, by keeping it untouched, by using machinery which is world class, high in tech, and it's completely automated. So our factory lines are completely automated. From the time you add raw material till the time the final product is being packed and sealed, it is not touched by any of the factory worker. They are just supposed to run the machine through buttons, or just guidance, or just ensuring that the machine is running, but otherwise product is not touched. Right. So this is the overall idea on which we have built this business. Like I told you, not many people are aware that EP is around 20% market share. In fact, we are market leader in at least 5 to 6 states, and that too with a journey from 16 years only. I'll come to my second brand, which is Bingo. I think it's my favorite brand because this brand was built on a completely different proposition, and I'll talk more about that. Typically, if you see any product, and if in fact if you whatever little you have learned so far about marketing is that the product should be superior, the product quality should be superior, and that should be the reason for consumer to buy. That is the basic premise on which we all of us work. But when we looked at salty snacks as a category, what you call as chips or namkeen, and all the casual munching that you do, what we realized was if you talk about product benefit to the consumer will not be moving basis that. This category is one of those unique categories in which product benefit only reduces the product appeal. Imagine that if I sell you a chips telling that this is the best quality of aloo that we have procured, this is the best quality of oil that we are in which we are frying this product, and this is the best quality of packaging on which we are packing it. Will you buy that brand? I'm sure the answer, because we know the answer is no. No one buys a chip product because of the product superiority. Product is incidental. Product is actually hygiene. So how we have built this business is by building a strong brand imagery. If we talk about product benefit, the brand will fail because no one wants to hang out with a brand. And we are talking about, this is a brand which is a category which appeals to youth, and youth always wants to hang out with a cool brand. And that is why it's important that we create a brand which is relevant, which is cool in the mind of consumer, and is not talking boring stuff like our product quality is better, or our grade of aloo is better than the competition, or our oil is not being reused. Those things we saw and we realized it is only impacted a brand, and that is how we created this brand Bingo. This brand Bingo is one of the most vibrant brands in our portfolio. and continues to stay relevant through multiple offerings, we never talk about product benefit. We have created comedy shows. We have created extremely interesting, I hope if it is visible, outdoor hoardings. So what we do is that every day we think that how do I stay cool in the mind of consumer? If it means comedy, I will be there. If it means pickleball, which is picking up right now, I will be there. If it is about Comic Con, I will be there. If it is about sunburn, I will be there. So the idea is to be extremely attractive, cool brand, and then product is something incidental that I will always be working on. But the brand is not built on product benefit, but is built on an imagery of the product. The second thing, which is more important in this category, because this category has zero decision-making process. In this case, you are hanging out with your friends, you are going on an outing, you are sitting in a cafeteria, you just want something to munch. That time, the consumer will not say that, yes, I don't have bingo in this shop, I will go to next shop. This is the least involved category and most impulse category. In this category, it's important that you are present next to the consumer. And that is why there are some 70 lakh outlets in India where salty snacks or the chips and wafers are being sold. Bingo is the most distributed brand in India with 35 lakhs of outlets being present. We do a lot of work through rags, through luddies. If you see, this category is sold through luddies. Why? Because we wanted to keep the product in the outside the outlet and creates a tempt that you see a luddy and you are able to you are forced to buy the product because you feel hungry. And with that intent only, we sell majorly through luddies. We have massive presence. Like I said, 35 lakh outlet is unmatched for any other category also. And we do extremely good work of trade engagement. So sometimes we talk about consumer, but we often neglect the importance of customer or the retailer. The retailer plays an important role because he helps us in getting the visibility to the outlet. He helps in retailer recommendation also. That sometimes the consumer will just come and say that I want to buy some chips. And whatever the customer is handed over by the retailer, he will trust the retailer. So that plays a very important role, and that is why trade is extremely important for this category, because here, if the product is not in a luddy format kept outside or in a rack format like this, it will not sell. And it has a very low shelf life of 4 months or maximum 6 months. So it also goes into expiry very fast. It has a very different way of working, which is across multiple portfolio. And we do a really good job, because what we do is that we have all the offering that consumer wants. In this category, you need to provide multiple offerings. So I'm sure you are aware of chips as a format, but I'm sure you all also be aware of our product called Bingo Mad Angle, which is in a triangle format. And then we have namkeens. Then we have Tene Mede, which is a stick format. So there are multiple formats because this industry is very big. And you need to provide all those options to the consumer. And that is how you build a massive portfolio. Bingo is around a 3,000 crore brand. And it has around 20% market share in the relevant category where we operate. And like I told you, it's one of the most distributed snacks brand. Evaluate our performance by looking at multiple parameters. In terms of market standing, we look at market share, that what is and every year we look at whether we have grown our market share over last year. We also look at growth. Any growth in single digit is not acceptable in India, because India is a growing market. So typically an FMCG brand should be growing from 12 to 15%. That's how any mature market like in the US or Europe grows not more than 2 to 3 to 4%. But in India, FMCG is a growing sector. So brand should definitely be growing from 12 comes to your mind when we say noodles, what comes to your mind when we say atta. So those things are extremely important. We continue to do consumer studies. So we meet thousands of consumers on a weekly basis through our partners, through our agencies to check this. In terms of consumption, we also look at penetration. Penetration is a very simple term. In India, there are some 32 crore households घर जितने होते हैं इंडिया में, there are 1.4 crore billion, 140 crore population, but number of households is 32 crore. Out of those 32 crore households, how many households have yippee present at least once in a quarter, right? And if it is present, then what is the share of requirement? So this is also one thing which is very important to know, that the book I was talking about, how brands grow, also empirically proved that there is no soulless customer. When we say soulless, that means I only eat bingo, which is hypothetical. There will be only 5 to 10% of your total consumer set who will be only buying you. But the reality is that most consumer continues to buy multiple brands depending upon their mood, depending on their mental availability or physical availability. So to say that I will be the only brand that customer wants is an imaginary situation. I will be the brand that my consumer prefers is something that you can attain and you can hope to achieve. And I will be the
Sir, it's
sorry.
the network issue from your side.
Sure, must be from my side. I'll start again. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. So that's what we do, and that's where my first part ends. I have a short presentation about building career in FMCG, and I thought I'll take you through my journey. So, and it's very important for all of us to know that we always wish that there are two ways, that I will keep working hard and I will keep growing in organization. Or the other way is I will keep working hard, I will not get success for some time, but after that there will be massive success, and then I will continue to grow faster. The reality is that career is a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you are up, sometimes you're down, sometimes you're actually going backward, sometimes you're actually ahead of others. But at any point of time, if you see and believe that I am ahead of others or I am behind others, that is very, very momentary. Things really change, things really improve or goes down. Sometimes there are market scenarios which are beyond your control, and suddenly you find yourself ahead of others or behind others. So it's important to know that careers are not built with a specific straight line or a hyperbole in mind. There are always ups and downs. And as long as there's one thing that I have maintained in my life, I always stay consistent. I always get consistent that yes, whatever I will do, I will put my best foot forward and I will have patience. I will continue to drive best from my side. Sometimes result will come, sometimes result will not come. But I never gave up. So just a small journey that I had after schooling. I did my engineering and MBA. That's not important. But what is important is that I worked in Dabur for 2 years and I realized that probably ITC is a better company. And 13 is a wrong number. I think it's an old slide now. But yes, since 2008, I've been working with ITC. I had went through multiple roles. I started with a sales role. I was handling a particular geography, which was rural Andhra Pradesh. Again, very hard work because it's a very hot area. You have to work with the salesman on a daily basis. It was very, very difficult, but that stint helped me a lot in knowing how rural India works, how a salesman works, how a distributor works. So very humbling also that not every time pedigree or your education helps you take ahead. In all of this, my journey so far, I've really not flaunted my degree to get something out of it. It's always the knowledge and hard work that has taken me here. Otherwise, people are really much more competent than you around, irrespective of the degree or irrespective of the experience or irrespective of the pedigree that they have. After that, I worked for channel management for some time. Then I moved again into a sales role. I handled Rajasthan for some time. Loved that role. After that, I moved into a brand activation role, in which I had to do consumer activation with the brand. Loved it for 2 years. Third year, I thought that I can do better than this. Waited for 1 year. Then I got a brand manager role for Yippee. Worked there for 2 years. I was also part of the Yippee brand when the whole noodles crisis happened in 2015. It was a great experience because I was able to navigate the brand from a 16% market share to 24% market share by the end of the crisis. Then I moved to become a marketing manager for Yippee and Bingo. Then I um, um, moved to Chennai because company wanted me to handle another business called Mangaldeep, which is into devotional products. It's completely different experience. From there, I moved into head of marketing role in snacks, noodles, and pasta. Then I thought a lot more of health related product movement is happening. Consumers are shifting towards mindful eating, healthier product portfolio, and products, and the startup word was evolving, and that is when I got involved into acquisition of a business, a brand called Yoga Bar. Right now, I'm handling this business and look overseeing the execution and so yes, this is the overall understanding. And this is what I tell everyone.
So, am I audible?
I'm very sorry, there's some network issue.
No worries, sir. So it's visible, audible now.
Yeah, so I was, I think, towards the end of my presentation. Yeah, you can see my slide, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, take it. So these are very basics, looks very common in nature, but staying human is something that I've been telling everyone in marketing. It looks very basic, but what happens, when we enter into our offices, we actually forget to think that we are also human, we are also consumers, we also have mothers, daughter, everyone at home who are using same product. So we are not working for an IT company with a solution and the product is being consumed by someone in the US. I'm talking about FMCG, which is being consumed every day around us. So staying human and taking it at how human thinks itself is one of the biggest blessings that I have seen across. If you stay logical, that has bigger benefit than any kind of pedigree or degree that you have. The second point, which is extremely important, is that there are always imperfect solutions because situations will never be perfect. That is one big learning, that when you come to the corporate work, when you come to the real life, you'll find that you will never be able to find a perfect solution for a problem. And that is why we always find solution which is 70-80% correct, and then we move it with that. Because the cost of waiting is infinite. It's to regret that I did not act on time is much bigger than the risk of failure. We always prefer to take action rather than trying to find perfect solution. What I really love about FMCG is that you have the ability to build from scratch. Even when I work with a company as big as ITC, I've been involved in so many projects in which from starting till the end, I was always involved. And that's what actually helps you become a better problem solver. You'll find a lot more of strategies starting from marketing itself. Sometimes just by doing right marketing, you are actually able to build a strong strategy around the brand you're handling, and that's how business growth also happens. I do another session in which actually I cover how I actually helped in complete transformation of brand Mangaldeep that I was handling. So a lot more of those actually started from how we actually relooked at the way we were doing marketing. This point is slightly personal in nature. It's important that we know that there's nothing called extrovert or introvert. This is something that the world is obsessed with. We also think, and I've heard this a lot, that marketing means you have to be extrovert. That's the biggest lie. I don't think I'm an extrovert, but when I'm at work, I'm doing my work, and which is honest work towards what I have to do. Whether it has to meet consumer, it have to meet trade, it have to meet 100 consumer, I will do that. That has nothing to do with my basic nature, and that is what I've seen over the years. Don't ever think that, because that's what I remember. In my time, people used to say that if I am not extrovert, I will not join marketing. That's not how anything works. That is not how the world works. Whatever you like, you should be doing. And when you like something, what you're doing, this whole idea about talking to someone, not talking to someone, being extrovert or introvert has no relevance. One thing which is aligned to what I like and which is extremely important in FMCG is that you only learn through traveling. You can't really build your career. You can't build a business by sitting in the office. What we do is that we look into the data, we understand the trend, then we go to the consumer, validate that, talk to them, get more insight. Then we go back to the data again. Then we understand what is the correlation between the two. Then we go to the trade and see how customer or the retailer is responding. Then we go to the product development team. It's a very complicated process, but all of that happens when we meet consumers. Even right now, also in a typical month, one day in a week, I will be traveling. Irrespective of which position I am, what I'm handling, I will always be traveling within city, outside city. But India is so big, the complexity is so much that you can't really build a big business by just sitting in your office. And last thing which I really loved, and I keep telling everyone that FMCG is one of those very few fields in which you will be part of a team and you will also be a leader. So to give you an idea, I was fresh MBA and I joined Dabur. And when I was handling my previous stint as area sales manager, the first stint I had, I was given a role of area sales manager. I was handling the rural Andhra Pradesh. I had a team of around 15 people, and the average age of that team was around 40 years when I was just fresh MBA, 22, 23 years of age. So that's what makes the big difference, that from first day you are being given the job of being a leader. On the other hand, I was also part of a bigger team. So I was part of a team. I was building a team and I became a leader. That really something that really I always wanted to have that experience in me, that can I handle a team? That was given to me on day one. I grew from there. Right now, I'm mostly handling a bigger team. So that's how it works. And that's what differentiates FMCG from other. The area sales manager role is one of the most rewarding stint, because that time you're actually working with the team, which is much more senior than you. And still they are listening to you only because you've understood faster than them, or probably you've been given this opportunity. Yeah, I think I already spoke about this, that we do a lot more than just making ads. Marketing is not about making ads. Ad advertisement is not more than 5 to 10% of what we do. A lot more of data analytics, meeting consumer, meeting customer, understanding trend is what we do. This is the second last slide. It's important that we all know that there is no business, there is no career that is built only on strategy. We do 70% execution, 20% strategy, only 10% innovation. So whenever I see young MBAs joining me, then they say, sir, I have to do strategy. That's not how it works. You have to first of all understand the basics, do the execution first, understand how execution works. Only then you create a sustainable strategy. Yeah. Last slide. I think I really love these books. I think these books shaped me in who I am. So that's why I always recommend this to everyone. Yeah, that's it from my side. I also wrote one interesting article about agility in FMCG and career planning. You might want to have a look. You can just Google also and find it. You just write this. So yeah, that's it from my side. I'll just stop sharing and then happy to get any answer, query, anything that you wish to have.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. That was really an insightful session. We would like to open the floor for questions now.
Better way. Yeah, Aditya, you decide and keep.
Yeah, sorry, Vanchit can say. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for that amazing talk, sir. I think we all truly learned a lot about marketing. But I'd just like to ask a follow-up regarding something you touched upon towards the end of your presentation regarding a career in marketing. So for career in marketing, there's a lot of things that go around that a person needs to be inherently creative, and a career in marketing is not as it like in our early stages of our career, while we're in first or second year, marketing is something which is not really brought to the highlight a lot. So as a career opportunity, what do you think should be some prerequisites that the first years, second years can take up, or even the third years that they can take up if they have a genuine interest, so that they have a fruitful career in marketing and people do not just blindly follow consulting, finance, and explore opportunities in this domain as well?
Okay. So I think uh, I'm not saying that only I am, but Trove and Aditya, the session that you are marketing is all about. So that one industry exposure is extremely important, so that all of you have an informed decision making. Right. There's also thought about marketing equals to creativity, marketing equals to low career, low paying job. But what I can assure you is that one second. Sorry. So the more you talk to people, the more you listen. Am I audible or is there any bandwidth issue? I'm really sorry, there's some network issue over here. So the more you talk to people, the more you understand of how we work. Live project is one massive jump in your learning that will help you. So reach out to people, understand from them, do certain live projects. So even at IMA also, we had certain projects in which we were the company used to come and then we used to work with them, and those were very basic projects. But you get an idea about how FMCG works, how marketing works. That's when all these ideas will be broken. And I'll tell you one more thing, which is important for all of you to know that, and I proudly say that I wanted to get into marketing because I wanted to become a CEO. It's very simple. So the idea of heading a business is something that I was always in my mind, and the fastest route is through marketing. Right. So on a typical organization, you find that the marketing person will be actually heading the organization. I'm talking about a typical FMCG company. So we have to know all these things. We have to talk more about these stories. Only then, and I'm not telling something is good versus something is bad. Consulting can always be good. But if I wanted leadership, I will never join consulting. It's very simple. For me, leadership is very important. Right. Heading a business is important for me. So that's why I will never join consulting. But that's my personal preference. But the more you talk to people, the more you understand how industry works. That's the only way. And thankfully, because of the way we are talking, right? Like I don't have to visit your campus right to plan your travel. But now with all these things, it's very easy to talk to people and get an idea.
So I think Dhruv also has a question. Dhruv can start.
Yes, so firstly, thanks a lot for making time and conducting the session. It was really insightful. So I just had one question pertaining to your stint at Dabur India, where you mentioned that you had worked in rural Andhra Pradesh. So I was just curious to know what are the key differences in marketing FMCG products to a rural audience versus marketing it to urban audiences.
Hmm. So Dhruv, actually, I was handling sales at that point of time. So while I became brand manager, everything was same. I have to handle both urban versus rural. The way of talking, see what happens in case of FMCG products. Um, we keep it very simple. We don't overcomplicate our messaging. One of the best part about FMCG marketing is that you don't overcomplicate. You don't tell 10 things. The benefits or the reason that you have to tell consumers should be one, two, or three, not more than that. So our messaging is always constant across all channels and across all consumer strata. The way of talking, the media planning is where it makes a difference. So in the rural, we used to do a lot more of activations. We used to run rural vans. We used to do mohalla activities. We also used to pick certain channels within the TV that were more inclined towards rural viewing, right? And then we used to do a lot more of on the shop activation, which is largely we call as retail branding, what we call as wall branding. If you go to a typical rural market, you will see that wall branding is something which is more prominent. You don't see hoarding over there, right? But you will actually see doing that. In Northeast, there's a concept of mobile theater. It's very common. So there we used to advertise. So that mobile theater is basically a concept in which in a mobile van, a van will go to different markets, will show a movie. Before or after that, we used to advertise. So there are 100 ways, but the ways of talking, reaching out consumer is different. But what you talk and how you talk, we don't change that dramatically. In fact, it is wrong to actually dumb down the messaging to rural customer, because with the evolution of digital, there is no customer who is really dumb. And to assume that I will talk in a dumb way to the consumer is not really helping the cause. So we keep it same messaging, but the media vehicles are different.
All right.
I think Neil can go next. Sir.
Good evening, sir. Thank you a lot for your insights, and we've learned a lot. But I think when you answer the previous question about how to enter, I do wanted to also know, and you touched upon this a bit, but if you could elaborate, what are some of the key skills that are needed for
Hmm.
students to enter into marketing, and particularly then we can build on to
Hmm.
FMCG marketing. But could you please touch upon that?
So Neil, one thing which I keep telling everyone is data analytics. Is to understand the trend. So what is happening? More than ever, we are living in a world in which uh, data is not a problem. So pehle the excess of data was a problem. Now abundance of data is a problem. So understanding what is the trend coming out of that is extremely important. Now we have data across. You can actually figure out an industry, its size, its salient feature, what is working, what is not working, just by going to Amazon and Blinkit right now, sitting here. And you can actually be more knowledgeable than me if you just want to. Just sitting in the office, you can, or in your room, you can do that. So understanding those trends is very important. Every time when you see a specific campaign, when you see a brand talking to you, just try to find out what they are trying to say, how they're trying to say that. Keep noting that down, that what is the inherent point that they want to convey. What is the critical analysis of that? Is it really working? Is it not working? What is something that they have thought about it? Right. The third thing which is very important is to understand the digital space. So that's a completely new way of working. It was not there, but this is a skill which is something which we want Gen Z or younger generation to teach us, people like us. So understanding the digital marketing will actually take you ahead. There's also concept of performance marketing. It's a new concept, which is basically how do you do advertising and marketing on the online platforms like Amazon and Flipkart. So you might want to understand that. But these are the critical skills that are important. I'm not even talking about the basic skill that you should have empathy to talk to consumer. So when we talk to consumer, we don't shoot questions at the consumer. And consumer can be anyone. You can just go to the shop and start talking that, madam, why did you buy this product over the other product? And she will give you really good insight. If you have basic empathy and humility to accept that this mother knows more than me, and she will give you really good insight. Pick any category that you like, go to the outlet, talk to the consumer, talk to the trade, you'll get an understanding. So if you understand those things, I think you'll get a good understanding. But that's what I do at a scale-up level. I meet those many retailers, consumers. But a basic humility only चाहिए to understand that someone knows more than me. And I think you'll be there. And the hardest skills I already told about the digital marketing, performance marketing, and understanding digital as a space, whether it is OTT, YouTube, or Instagram. Instagram marketing is one big way. So try boosting your, you must have Instagram account. Try boosting your post and see how the response is coming. Do the targeting over there. All of these things you can do on your own without and very small money, 50 rupees, 100 rupees laga diya, and see the response, what kind of response you're getting. So those are things that we do. Ultimately, targeting karte hum log, we were doing on TV, now we are doing on Instagram. Those things are there.
Understood, sir. Thank you a lot. I think the grassroots level sort of building upon that is very interesting. So thank you.
Like Akash can go next.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for sharing your insights and experience during the session. I found it really valuable. I just have a question as to how do you observe things around and develop ideas for marketing plans, and like how do you approach creativity in this career, and also how can someone new to this area start developing their own creative mindset?
So Akash, this is something which is critical, but creativity is something that see how marketing works is that a marketing manager is not a creative manager. How it works is that we have partners in place. How it works in practical world is that there are partners and agencies. They are into this creative problem solving. So as a brand manager, as a marketing manager, my job is to identify the problem, identify the solution. The creativity is something that is being developed by the partners or agency, and then they come to us. That's the first part, which is the practical part. That no brand manager will sit down and write creative on a piece of paper, right? That's one thing. But it's also important to know the what is the creative, what is a good creative, what is a bad creative. Again, same thing that this is what you build over time, right? And I use certain ways. One way is to, like I was telling the previous person also, that you keep looking at every single creative that is around you, whether it is an ad which is being thrown to you on Instagram, or you see a poster which you have seen, or an ad that you saw, and you just pause for a second and try to understand what they were trying to say. What was something which stuck to your mind and stayed with you, right? The creativity का एक single objective होता है कि you saw the ad, you forgot about everything about the ad, you remember one thing from that ad. That is creativity और कुछ नहीं है. Because if the creativity is not making you stick, at least have one key takeaway that you're not able to forget after some time also, that is not creativity. Creativity should always mean that you're able to create lasting impression in the mind of consumer, right? So that is something you have to keep noting down, that this is what you have to do, this is what we should not be doing. Sorry. So that is one thing. Second, recently off late, what I found interesting was, which is a hack, is that if you have Pinterest account with you, but I'll suggest open Pinterest account and then try looking for design ideas, creative ideas. So you'll see a lot of inspiration coming from international brands, and there you'll see a really good set of creative ideas that is coming in. So try to see what you are seeing around you. That will actually give you a good idea. उसके अलावा मतलब creativity only, there are two ways of creativity. One is to have inherently creative mindset, which is not gifted to everyone, including myself. I am not gifted with a creative mindset. I always thought for 10 years, Akash, that creativity can only come by birth. But then I realized that's not true. You can build that creative mindset. You need not be creative, but you should have creative mindset to judge that this is creative, this is not creative. That's it. But to say that for a great marketing manager, I have to be great creative guy, that is wrong. Because you have people around you, you have resources around you to help you with that. right? So it's important to know what is good versus bad, but not to be obsessed that I have to create a creative campaign. That's not required for marketing.
Thank you,
So I
sir.
think we have two last questions, one from Moti and from Abhay. I think Moti can go first.
All right. First of all, thank you, sir, for the insights that you gave during this session. My question to you is, as you showcased on one of your slides, you have more than 2 decades of experience in the field of marketing for FMCG brands, where you started from Dabur and now you're working under ITC. So, how has the field of marketing, particularly for FMCG brands, evolved over the past 2 decades? One thing that I could gauge from your answer to Neil was data analytics. First, there was less data and now there is more data. And my second question is, what is the most innovative marketing campaign for FMCG brand that you have worked in or you were involved in?
So first question is very relevant. I think it's completely transformed from the way we used to handle. Pehle life was very easy that we used to do advertising on TV and then we used to go to all the Kirana stores. Now that has completely transformed. TV is losing relevance because everyone is on multiple screens. So the idea is to learn how do you stay relevant when consumer has multiple screen. I'm not telling that you only have to learn digital. But what is happening? Consumer is out of home. Consumer is doing multiple gaming, multiple activities. Consumer is also on Instagram. Consumer is also probably on Facebook. So there are 100 ways in which consumer has to be touched upon, which is completely changed. Pehle life was very easy that I have to advertise on TV only. So that is something which is completely changed. And that is a big transformation. Now we have to make a campaign which is relevant across multiple screens or multiple platforms, and that is that is one big difference. Second is to learn how e-commerce or q-commerce works, and that is a very different game because q-commerce or e-commerce is not just a sales channel, it is also sales and marketing channel. You have to learn how do we do performance marketing over there, but also see that the sale is also happening over there. So that is one big change. Third, definitely the attention span has gone down. So people are a lot more busy. So we have to make our creativity a lot more quick in nature and fast in nature. And ultimately, you're able to create a lasting impression with that. But yes, it's completely diluted now as against how it used to happen. We have to cater to multiple ways of reaching consumers. So yes, I think Murthy, I was telling the other person also that I don't really believe in creative excellence. I believe in solving problems, business problems. So while we have created multiple campaigns, I am really proud of one campaign which actually transformed business. So I was in Mangaldeep, which is a devotional brand, and somehow we were focusing on not really advertising the brand, and on our brand core were also getting very diluted. So Mangaldeep was not really standing for anything because we used to talk about the product benefit that my agarbattis are thicker in nature. It emits less smoke. And what I realized after meeting consumer is that those functional features are not really the reason why a consumer buys the agarbatti. And the core was that the consumer lights up an agarbatti to create an atmosphere around her so that she is disconnected from the chaotic world around her and she is connected to the God. She is able to talk to the God. So my whole idea was that Mangaldeep creates an atmosphere which helps you connect with the God. Mangaldeep is an enabler towards the devotional journey of the consumer. So that struck a really good chord because consumers exactly wanted to hear this rather than telling that my agarbatti has those 5 benefits, functional benefit. I also created a very nice creative magnifier of a creative way of creating a cloud around the consumer in my advertising of flowers, which was emanating from the my flower flavored agarbattis. And from there, it was looking as if the consumer is disconnected from the chaotic world and able to connect to the God. That really worked well. And after that, only my brand is actually growing since then because we moved from a functional benefit to an emotional connect with the consumer. That's what I do all the time. So I don't really believe in creating something which is extremely good in terms of creativity. But what works well with the consumer, what connects well is something that I always try to focus on.
Thank you, sir. I think that answered my questions.
Thank you, sir. I think that brings us to the end of the questions. So, as we wrap up today's session, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude for the meaningful exchange that has taken place. So, am I audible? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So as we wrap up today's session, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude for the meaningful exchange that has taken place. A special thanks to our esteemed guest, you, Mr. Aishwarya Pratap Singh, for sharing your valuable expertise and insights. Your contribution have significantly enriched our understanding of the concept and expanded the horizons of our knowledge. The session would not have been possible without the unwavering guidance and support of Professor Simrat Kaur, Principal of Shriram College of Commerce, and Dr. Amanpreet Kaur, Convener of the Placement Cell. Finally, I extend my gratitude to the audience for making the second session of the Marketing Masterclass a tremendous success. Your enthusiasm and active participation fostered an environment of intellectual engagement and learning. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thank you Dhruv, for calling me.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you. Thank you, Dhruv. Bye-bye.